AI is a tool, right? This is the crux. If your whole impact is just doing a report, you're going to struggle. Because I'm Benny, I'm the founder of BizFlash. We're endeavoring to be the Duolingo of career skills, helping young people tackle the youth unemployment problem and really future-proof their careers by building the skills that are really essential in the future.
What should young professionals focus on now to stay employable over the next 5 to 10 years?
The thing that they really need to understand is...
Hello, Benny. Thank you for joining our show. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
No, pleasure, absolute pleasure. Benny, for our listeners, would you mind introducing yourself and tell us what you do?
Yeah, I'm Benny. I'm the founder of BizFlash. We're endeavoring to be the Duolingo of career skills. So helping young people tackle the youth unemployment problem and really future-proof their careers by building the skills that are really essential in the future. My background is in tech. I've worked for big tech and venture-backed startups. And so trying to channel those experiences into my own little venture for the first time.
Ah, that's perfect. Isn't that always helpful to bring your own kind of, your experience into things and see what you can do to
I don't think it'd happen any other way, really, because a company that you start or trying to start your own venture is an inherently personal thing. I mean, I'd love to build a rocket company, but I don't know anything about that. So I think it's very natural to try and do something that you have either, a lot of experience in, passion, or a particular connection to. And I think, really to succeed, you have to have some sort of differentiation along those lines.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Benny, on that note, actually, a good segue to this question. Were you aware that this was as such a problem from a startup perspective? Because you know how they say that there is no reason or no point going into business unless there is a problem to solve. How did you figure out that this was a problem? Talk us more through that.
Yeah, I think the way that I reflect on that, and I think the decision to become an entrepreneur or the decision to start your own company, I think happens quite a bit in advance of actually having the business. So for me, it was a probably 5-year journey, reflecting, thinking, networking. Maybe there is some alternate way that you can just have a divine idea and something just hits you. But I think it's actually a lot more iterative and incremental. So I had a founding idea around, the future of work, that, the way people learn and develop skills via university was a little bit antiquated. So I had a thought that, more interactive, Duolingo style, engaging ways of learning was the future, but that certainly wasn't originally focused on our current problem. And so actually the big learning there is that, entrepreneurship is just about like action and execution. So no, the answer to your question is no, I didn't have this as our original idea, but through working, listening to people, just having your eyes open, it became clear that this was a much bigger and more burning issue than our current problem statement. And so I think a big part of starting a company is being able to listen and learn and refine and pivot so that you get to something that is very meaty and worth sinking your teeth into.
You know what, I was thinking about my experience when I was a graduate and just thinking about those, how do you enter into the employment market? I feel that the lacking of skills, which genuinely affects the confidence of the candidates who are applying for roles out there, has always been there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We are going back, giving away my age here a little bit. We are going back like 15, 16, 17 years ago. How is it different now? Or are we saying it's just that the problem has become bigger because AI has entered the space?
I would say that the sort of skills and competencies of a graduate are probably the same, if not, now with technology and, advancements in, a lot of different ed tech platforms, the skills of young people are probably better now than they were, certainly, in your day and my day. The biggest obvious change is AI, and you've inferred that. But AI as it stands now is very good at task repetition, pattern recognition, sort of more low cognitive work, and so that really has hit what was collectively known as entry level work. Right, when I started my career, I was doing telemarketing. I had 200 names on an Excel doc, and I just had to call them. I think in marketing would probably a lot of like generic content creation, software development, QA, and just sort of like sitting and code review. A lot of that work is now automated, and so the big question is, where is that onboard? Where is that first opportunity? And again, that's probably where the employment figures are, because that work and that traditional onboard is no longer there.
Wow, that's interesting. I never thought. And why is that traditional onboard isn't there? What's the reason for that?
Well, because it's been replaced by automation, right? Like if your role was just to do a bit of market research, right? You can do a ChatGPT prompt for that now, right? If you need to just send a bunch of emails or do a bunch of cold calling, there is a lot of like automated systems. So where you needed young people, graduates, first timers, to do that work, because it is comparatively low cognitive work, it is a lot more repetitive. That's simply not needed anymore, right? Like that sort of base layer of work has been replaced, and that's kind of where the state of the art is now. AI is very competent at doing repetitive, task-orientated work.
So, what is BizFlash's value proposition at the moment? Because the technical skills are going to be through the universities or TAFE course, whatever they choose to do. Where do you guys fit into this picture?
Well, number one, I think that the technical skills aren't actually being taught at university. I think you get a lot more theoretical academic education in a university. Perhaps it's slightly different in more like trade universities because they are very orientated. But let's speak to graduates from your traditional universities, the traditional white collar worker. Entry level work was effectively that time, right? Like you will never learn how to do CRM work at university, right? You'll never learn the basics of, what a pipeline is, or how to do cold calling, pick your category, right? You'll never learn like foundational code review and like the processes of a company if you're a software developer. And that was effectively the domain of entry level work, right? You'd come on, maybe you'd join a grad program, or at the very least, you'd be like a junior salesperson, and you were learning those hard skills, right? Learning how to work with customers. So without that onboard, that entry level work, there is a big gap, because now that's effectively what the market is saying. They want experienced, competent, independently valuable workers, which is that sort of mid-tier, like 5 to 10 years of experience. And that's the sort of frustration that young people are feeling. They're looking for entry-level work, but there's a 5-year experience requirement. And so that is the skills gap. How can we bring people onto, the labor force? How can we make sure that when they come into the workforce, they're actually prepared with the skills? Because if you come up to an employer now and say, I don't know how, a pipeline works, or I don't know how to do, consultative sales, it's really going to be difficult, even if you have a degree in business or commerce or something like that.
This is really, really good point. I was actually curious about this when we got to know your background and what BizFlash is currently doing and the value you guys are adding. How do you know if somebody, say like me, I finished the course, how would you measure success of that candidate going back into the market? Do you have like a feedback channel that comes back to you from an employer perspective that it's working, or from, your student perspective that it's working?
Yeah, so I think, we're still working towards that. But the vision that I have for BizFlash is that it is an ongoing career skills tool. This is not a niche product that's just focusing on helping a young person get an interview, or even just getting a job, right? The vision that I have for career skills is that it's an ongoing thing, whether you're a graduate or someone like us, right?
Yeah.
Like even with 15 years of experience, AI will start to hit all of us, right? There will be an ongoing transformation to the economy. And so whether you have no years of experience, 5 years or 20 years of experience, there is going to be a pretty, macro driver to reskill or adapt your skill sets. For example, if I wanted to get a job in cybersecurity, I don't know the first thing is about cybersecurity, right? If I wanted to get a job in data centers, how can I adapt and prepare my skills? And so the vision here for BizFlash is to build out an ongoing, repository of career support. So we've got career skills as one category. The next phase of development that we're doing is how do we broaden and deepen that, right? How do we have job discovery skills, interview prep skills, your first 30 days skills, your first performance review skills? How do you have a contract review and how do you pitch for a promotion, right? All of these things are on our roadmap. And so we don't have one definite, ROI metric, okay, we got the interview, but it will be something in terms of the actual efficacy that we can monitor via retention, usage, tenure on the app. And in a way, again, the easiest analogy there is a language, right? I'm viewing career skills as a language. Yeah, you might be able to say, buenos dias, muchas gracias, but over time, you want to get more sophisticated in Spanish, right? You do want to continue deepening your understanding. And it's the same thing with career skills. So very long answer short. The main thing that we're looking for is retention and usage. Can we make BizFlash an indispensable part of their daily routine when they're on the bus or when they're having their morning coffee, no matter what stage of their career they're in?
Yeah, that is really cool. And I've got a better understanding after you explaining this to me, because I was thinking more from a graduate, sort of Gen Z perspective, but that completely makes sense that this is a tool that's building confidence no matter what part of life you are in. And it's probably relevant, not even probably, it's relevant for our listeners as well, because if somebody's choosing to go into business, and sometimes, we have those mindset blocks, I say, we all do at different parts of life. And I would love to hear your, that's probably my next question, is I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. And so it seems like you guys would bridge the skills gap for anyone doing whatever they are wanting to do, whatever they are wanting to learn in bite-sized chunks. Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah, exactly. And, again, the analogy is there. If you want to learn French or Spanish or Korean or German, they're all the different things. And I think what we're building now is the infrastructure and the architecture to do that, right? We're building a way for you to learn career skills. And then the next journey is to just make sure that that's relevant to people, right? Like right now we have very basic role categories. If you want to learn sales, marketing, finance, software development. But again, the vision here is to just deepen and bring more specificity. Yeah, if you want to be an entrepreneur, do we have an entrepreneurial track, right? Can we build a talk track or a learning track, if you want to be a dentist, right? Like all of these different things are perfectly extendable from our architecture, but we're really just trying to prove that we can bring that value and the utility before, broadening and deepening our offerings.
No, perfect. Thank you, Benny. Look, I think we have deep dived a fair bit into BizFlash. I want to know more about you, and I think that would really motivate our listeners or founders who are having those mindset blocks. So probably a good segue into my next question. You did mention that you were working in corporate, you have startup experiences. How was that mindset shift from an employee to an entrepreneur? Because I hear about it so many times from a lot of people that I meet in my network, and I really wanted to hear that from you.
Yeah, it's about as profound as it gets. I think in terms of the skills and competencies that you need, but also just almost like an energy level. I mean, working for a big company, there's a lot of like this sort of direction, right? You have a long list of emails that you need to respond to. You have, a lot of structure around your KPIs, expectations, timelines. And so I kind of felt like I was always reacting, and got to get these pitches out, got to do the thing. I've got my, performance review next week. And the biggest shift when you're an entrepreneur is that all of that stops, right? You have to be the catalyst and you have to be the starter. Like at BizFlash, between Slack and WhatsApp, I send almost no emails, right? Like no one really emails me. I got a lot of spam emails that come through, but there's not a lot of people that are like chasing me and wanting to get my time at this point. And so I'm the catalyst. Like I'm, chasing candidates, I'm chasing customers, I'm chasing investors. And I think if you're not a starter, like a self-starter like that, it could be hard. And I think it's just about figuring out, what sort of work style that you like, because it's hard. It's a big shift from, having a lot of routine. And I guess that sort of also bleeds into your personal life as well, because you're doing that. You do have this almost guilt if you're not doing that, right? Like over the Christmas break or even the Australia Day long weekend, I was like, can I relax? The business kind of needs me. And so it's not either better or worse at a big company or a startup, but I think it's just important to understand that difference and also figure out whether you are more of a self-starter or that, you like structure and a bit more organization.
Could you think of any examples that you could share with us that you can think of your early time when you were trying to build BizFlash? How did you go about managing your life, your time, and get over those mental blocks to kind of get yourself organized? Because I'll give you my example, right? So from my perspective, I'm currently in a building or a growth stage for my business. Which is a bit more accounting advisory. But the hardest thing is sometimes you would go through those, I wouldn't say negative, but very, like there are pulling thoughts that go through your brain. Am I on the right direction? Am I not? Am I doing the right thing? Am I not? Who's going to validate that? And I think sometimes that can be a little bit challenging to navigate, unless you have people around you that are that really know you and your brain really well and how you work.
Yeah, I mean, the tone of your question implied that I've got that figured out or I've gotten to that level yet, but I certainly don't think I'm organized and, super process orientated now. And I think that's probably in itself the learning. You hear a lot in the startup ecosystem around investors who like investing in second-time founders. And having started a company, like I'm definitely understanding what they mean there, because whatever I say, whatever you say, you can hear about it, right? You hear a lot about these things, but until you truly experience, what it's like to have, no structure, and until you truly, experience what it's like to try and prioritize things or figure out, if there's 10 things, I can only do 2, which are those 2? You learn quickly through this like recursive feedback loop that like, that was a waste of time, or like, actually that was a way better thing, or, the biggest priority now is not that, it's that I need to just compartmentalize that, because everyone starts with a super grand design, or at least I did, there are these 5 different features and we're going to be global and we're going to have all these different things. But the number one learning is that you just got to have a over index on execution, right? Even if you're doing the wrong thing, doing something is how you progress, because you don't have the opportunity to sit back, do an A/B test on 10 ideas, think about it, because then, 2 months is gone and you've burnt money, or, you're losing interest of your team. And so it is almost like shoot first, aim second in terms of just trying to get that momentum, because as I said, you do need a catalyst. You do need to get the ball rolling. And if you're sitting back and measuring and, doing a 6-month roadmap, you're never going to even get close to building that momentum. So I certainly don't have this like incredible prioritization matrix. I don't have, the best formula to go about that. What I do have is a lot of, experiences around what doesn't work and what are deprioritization opportunities in the future.
Did you ever write it down in your diary? Like, are you more of a writer that you would keep a record of what sort of didn't work or what happened through the day, and then you kind of synchronize that information and use that to make better decisions?
No, sure. Sounds like a good idea. I'm very much the sort of like, what's at the top of the inbox sort of today vibe. I'm constantly forgetting to pay bills and realizing that my credit card was due yesterday and those sort of things. I probably would be really supported by an executive assistant and someone to help me with that organization. But yeah, no formal structure yet. Maybe I'll get to that level one day.
I'm just learning all this, so I thought I might just put that out.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I should do it. It's always been a problem, to be honest.
I'm learning from my mistakes. Remind me one more time. So I have seen the deck that you've sent, and thank you very much. Are you going for an investor round, or have you finished that for BizFlash?
It's a question that I think about a lot as well. So I've bootstrapped it to date, and if there would be a good opportunity for investment, I would take it. I think it's a fair acknowledgement now that the bar has been raised, and I think most entrepreneurs that are going for venture would do that. And as a fan of the market, I kind of understand, right? There are so many startups now. Taking a flyer on a pre-revenue company is quite risky as an investor. Mm-hmm. I appreciate that. And so I'm trying to find the right balance between building the vision and, sort of like the financial piece. And so I am kind of thinking of a more slow burn, bootstrapped version, just because we're quite far away from revenue, I would say. The priority for me now is to build a really sticky product. And also for investors to demonstrate that. Mm-hmm. But I would much rather work on the retention, the stickiness, the virality of the business than really push for any short-term revenue, because I feel like that is a great metric and obviously being able to pay for it. And so this is the conversation I have with our team. How can we make sure that we're building in the long-term future and that we're not taking shortcuts to artificially juice revenue? So the short answer is yes, I would have loved to have raised. The short findings there is that it's too premature. And so I have actually somewhat deprioritized the fundraise just because I'd like to get to a later stage with more, product stickiness and ultimately revenue before making that case.
And that's fair, because you are being thorough with your research. You want to use that research to build the product. And then you can kind of go, I'd much rather take the time up front than actually working backwards and going, oh, I wish I would have spent time on this, X, Y, Z. I think it's a great strategy.
It's not a like a 2-year horizon and thing that I've thought about. I've been lucky enough that I've had a lot of good conversations with investors. The most helpful has been speaking to other entrepreneurs because it's a fairly tight market, and there are a lot of companies out there, and so being a good company is not a sufficient thing, or even having a good idea is not sufficient in this market. You have to show differentiated, non-middle of the pack success and traction. And, as someone who supports the ecosystem, I understand what investors are meaning by that, right? There's a lot of conjecture at the moment is like software dead, vibe coding and advancements in the foundation models. It's very clear that there's a lot of uncertainty, but it's also incumbent on us all to prove that. It's also a reality of the Australian market. I think, the Australian market is a little bit tighter and more de-risked than other markets, but I don't have any sort of resentment towards the ecosystem here. I think it's just about understanding that the game that you're in and making sure that you're not doing it. I hear a lot of, sort of founder feedback and resentment towards investors, or, they don't back the vision. It's pretty futile, right? It's part of the ecosystem, right? There's someone's always got an objective, and someone's always got, someone that they need to kick up to. And in the investor case, it's their LPs. So that's just the time that you're in. If we were 10 years ago, I think we probably would have got funding, but it's not that market now. So you need to just make sure that you're aligning with the times.
Yeah, no, you're right. And it's a tricky path to walk, I feel, because I've heard about it from other people that I've met and founders, and it's never an easy path to walk.
The way that I think about it is you can't, like, capital can't be the linchpin of your business success, right? If you get to the situation where like, oh, we could have built a great company if they only invested into us, right?
Yeah.
Or like, we just needed 500K and we could have done it. It's like the tone has to be, we're building a really important business here. We're going to succeed. We're moving in a direction. You have the opportunity to invest. I'm grateful for the team that we've got. I think we have a team that's really mission-led. It's obviously hard in Australia with cost of living and, how can we find the right balance that we're moving forward and that people are still able to get some sort of salary, either with part-time work or another job. But yeah, it was a stressful thing. I'd probably say maybe the middle of last year where I was like, the music's going to stop and the business is going to implode. But we've gotten to a point now where we are making a lot of progress, right? We have a team that is able to ship code, build new features, adapt to market feedback. Yeah, it would go faster if we were all, working in an office and moving a lot faster. But as long as you're in the fight and you're moving forward and you're improving and growing and getting closer to that product market fit, I think it is actually quite reasonable for tech founders in particular to try and bootstrap, because otherwise you're either really going to struggle for investment or you're going to have a gun to your head and be having to take really bad terms that don't really project your business in the direction that you want it to go anyway.
I might ask you this: are you able to give us a range of how much you have already spent bootstrapping the business? So you started 5 years ago, is that correct?
No, I started about this time last year.
Oh, this time last year. Okay. Yep. Gotcha.
Yeah. No. If I was 5 years in pre-revenue, I would be a little bit worried. So yeah, it's been about a year. And that process has been non-linear. I think I spent the first maybe 7 to 8 months kind of going down a different direction.
Yep.
And then since I would say sort of October, November, we pivoted for the first time and doubled down on this like graduate youth unemployment problem. I've spent some money originally on some contract developers to kind of get the ball rolling. But since then, we have had, a mission-led team that has been working on equity. I have been working with, a lot of young developers who are in that early stage. So, the business that we're building isn't just, by a bunch of old dudes and millennials. It's largely been built by Gen Z and the audience that we're looking to serve. And that was, again, like the biggest realization, right? When I was young, software developers were getting 5 job offers straight out of university. Like, that was the sort of thing. If you did computer science, you were, basically on a ticket to an easy life and a really high salary. Now you have incredibly talented, well-educated, ambitious, young software developers and computer science grads that are just unable to find work. So there has been a very natural fit. My vision is for BizFlash to be a trampoline or a slingshot for tech talent in Australia. And it's already proven the case. Like we're getting young people who are smart but looking for an experience and have built a lot of our, front end and our back end. And so in that way, we're not just, paying contract developers or spending a lot of money. Yeah, there's obviously costs in terms of, the software that we use and other things, but it has been quite lean. It's mainly just, foregone salary at this point.
Right. Looking ahead, as AI continues to reshape jobs and career pathways, what should young professionals focus on now to stay employable over the next 5 to 10 years, especially if they're also thinking about building something on the side?
Well, firstly, I think building something on the side is a fantastic idea. I think the thing that they really need to understand is impact, right? And value creation. I think that's the biggest transition from university to the workforce, right? University, it's basically just your effort, right? I put in, 2 or 3 weeks of work and I submitted this project and, I got a 75 or I got a B plus or, that was it. Cool. Well done. Achieved. I think the biggest differential is when you're working in the economy and you're working in a professional function, there is a downstream impact, right? Is the company making money? Is the company growing? Are the, customer base growing? Are their customers spending more? And so I think what young people need to do is really understand how these businesses work, right? How they make money. What are the biggest pain points for the companies that they want to work for? And that transition will really help them create value, right? I think the one piece of feedback that I would give is if you're just looking for your first opportunity, don't expect the company to sort of like take you along for the journey. You have to be there. For example, like here's what a bad outcome. Hello, such and such, can you mentor me? Right? Like that is an energy shift from the employer to the young person. What a better opportunity would be like, hey, company, I see you do a lot of content marketing. I've seen you on LinkedIn. I've seen you on Instagram, and I think I can improve your content marketing. And, if I was able to do this, I think you could get better click-through rate. I think you could get more customers and more leads. Can I, take an internship with you and help you fix that? That is the easiest decision of all time to make because you're creating value. You're proactively sharing an opportunity that you could do to help that business go forward. And that's what I see a lot of the young people, right? Like they want to be taught and educated and taken along for the journey. That's the reality now, and a lot of young people will send me, something that they've clearly just prompted in ChatGPT and expect that to be valuable. That doesn't, I could do that myself, right? If I just wanted to do a quick prompt and get some answers, like what is the young person adding in that situation? And the answer is execution and impact. Can you actually drive a business objective forward? Can you achieve something for the business that would otherwise be impossible if you weren't there? And I think that's probably going to be something for all people, not only young people, right? If your work, right now is something that can be automated or quickly replaced by a prompt, you should think about what is my ongoing value to this company and how can I differentiate myself in a way that, someone less experienced in using AI could.
But how would they? Because I think everybody would be using the same AI. You know what I mean? And they don't have any practical experience. So how would that change come about?
Yeah, because like AI is a tool, right? There is no, and again, this is the crux. If your whole impact is just doing a report, right? Or just doing a prompt and getting some AI answers and sending that as an email, you're going to struggle because anyone can do that. What the next step is like actually implementing it, right? Actually implementing AI in a campaign or using the AI findings to pick up the phone and call a customer or to like build a new product feature or to help a company with their, bug in the sign up flow, right? This is something that AI can do a tool. It's a thing. But again, if your point is like, okay, here's a report around some campaigns that you could run. What do you think? No, I'm going to actually implement them. I'm going to follow up. I'm going to call 10 of your customers and get a feedback, or I'm going to go sign people up to your platform. AI can't do that. And I think the main dichotomy that I would have is humans and AI, right? You do not want AI doing something that humans should do, right? I.e., if you're just using AI to do like, AI slop, agentic outreach to people and just sending them a bunch of templates via email, it's not going to work. You need that human touch to work with a client, to work with a prospective investor. At the same time, you do not want a human doing something that should be automated, right? Like highly repetitive work, my whole job is to, write a proposal. You can get AI to do that. And so the skills that are needed in the future and how you differentiate yourself in the future is understanding that dichotomy. so that you're not spending time wastefully, doing something that could be AI. But at the same time, you're not just lazily doing a prompt and expecting like some AI slop email to, like people send me, I get it all the time. Like I ask young people for a proposal, they do a 30-second prompt and they send me the output and they think, I'm going to be impressed by that. I could do that myself. It's like, what is your individual utility and what are you actually adding to this process that I couldn't do myself? And that's the biggest challenge for young people is if you're just sort of like, using AI for everything, you're not really going to be honing those skills and able to contribute something that's differentiated.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Using AI, but then you've got to think through both angles. That's super interesting. How to use AI, but then also show your human intelligence on how you're going to add that value using the what benefits AI is giving you.
Well, the assumption there is that you using AI is better than AI by itself. And
yeah, true.
That is differentiate. But again, if your whole output, and humans have sent me something that I was like, that is literally 15 seconds of work. I don't know how you're thinking that that's creating value. It's very generic. It's not actionable. It's not like, execution orientated. And so at what level is that like going to create value? And again, it's just your introspection, looking into the mirror and saying, this is how I can add value to this company, right? Adding value to the company is not, I can do a 30-second prompt, like it has to be something that's tangible. If I wasn't here or I wasn't doing this job, it wouldn't get done.
That's it's a very, very crucial point what you've made. Really crucial point. Benny, I'm out of questions. I've thoroughly enjoyed our time together and I've learned so much from you. I hope our listeners would have lots of takeaways here. Thank you very much for being with us today and thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for supporting the community. And if there are any entrepreneurs out there, whether you're planning a business on the side or you've launched or any part of the journey in between then, feel free to get in touch with me. I'm always happy to talk and swap experiences.
Oh, that is awesome. We will put your details on our About page as well.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Sam.
No, thank you.